Welcome to the Psychology World podcast with me, Connor Whiteley, psychology student and international best-selling psychology author of over 30 psychology books, bringing you the latest psychology news, fascinating psychology topics and more each week. If you want to learn more, then please check out connorwhiteley.net/books. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube video or follow on your favourite podcast app. And here's the show. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 346 of the Psychology World podcast with me, Connor Whiteley. And today's episode is on what are some suicide hotlines and prevention programs around the world. And it is Friday the 19th of September 2025 as I record it. So today's podcast episode is a little different than normal, because normally I present a content part of today's episode and I teach you lots of really good, fascinating bits of psychology. But in today's episode, I'm more just using it as a vehicle, just so I can say, hey everyone, if you ever need to know more about suicide hotlines and prevention programs around the world, particularly when it comes to your country, so whether this is you're feeling suicidal, one of your friends or family members might be suicidal, I just want you to know that over at connorwhiteley.net/podcast, there is a massive list of different suicide hotlines all over the world. So in today's podcast episode, I'm going to tell you about some of them, but if you want the full list, then please, I cannot stress that enough, head on over to connorwhiteley.net/podcast, and it will give you so many different suicide hotlines and prevention programs which you can reach out to. And as it's Suicide Prevention Month, I really want to get this information out there. And as always, I always love to hear your thoughts and feelings on today's episode. So you can always email me, connorwhiteley@connorwhiteley.net. You can always leave a comment of the show notes at connorwhiteley.net/podcast. And you can always tweet on Twitter at sci-fi Whiteley. I always love to hear from all of you. It really helps make the podcast feel more like a conversation. And please feel free to send pictures of where you're listening in from. I always love to see where all of you are all over the world. And today's podcast episode has been sponsored by Suicide Psychology. So this is a great, really easy to understand book that helps bust a lot of the myths and misconceptions that people have about suicide. So what we dive into the suicide myths, we also talk about the biological and the neuropsychological impact of suicide. We also talk about minority groups and so many more fascinating topics about suicide. I flat out, I love this book, and if you want to understand more about the truth behind suicide, then please check it out. So that is Suicide Psychology, available from all major ebook retailers, and you can order the paperback and hardback version from Amazon, local bookstore, or local library if you request it. And if you want the audiobook narrated by artificial intelligence, then now you can, at selected audiobook retailers like Spotify, Kobo, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble, and selected library systems like Overdrive, Baker & Taylor, and Biblioteca. So whilst buying books helps to support the creation and the editing of the podcast, my time is sponsored by my wonderful patrons. And as always, massive thank you to my patrons. Your support shows that you like the show and you want it to continue. So if you want to become a patron of the show and get access to tons of great rewards, now you can, including over 75 exclusive blog posts, which will be made into podcast episodes for weeks, months, or even years. So if you want to become a patron, then please head on over to patreon.com/the Psychology World podcast. Or if you want to support the podcast on a one-off basis, then now you can at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. So let's move on to the content part of today's episode. So we're moving on to the content part of today's episode. So we're going to be talking about what some suicide hotlines and prevention programs all around the world. So even though at Conor Wiley done it full research podcast, and if you find today's podcast episode, then you'll be able to find a whole host of different countries. This content part of today's episode, I'm only going to be reading out the countries that the majority of the podcast listeners are from. And I know we have an audience in Australia, so I'm going to start there. That and it begins with A. Australia Suicide Prevention Resources. So if you're suicidal, or if you've done a suicide attempt, then you can contact the national emergency number, which is 000. You can contact Lifeline Australia, and if you dial 13 11 14 for 24/7 crisis support, or you can text a different number which is a lot longer, so I'm not going to read it out, if you need 24/7 tech support. When it comes to Irish suicide prevention resources, this I'm just more doing it because I'm an Irish citizen and I want to support my fellow Irish people. Then the national emergency number is at 112 or 999. The Samaritans, you can also dial 116 123 for 24/7 mental health support. You could also contact Mental Health Ireland or text about it. Also, if you're in New Zealand, then if you're suicidal or if you've attempted a suicide, then you can contact 111, which is the national emergency number, the National Mental Health and Addiction Hotline, which is 1737, or you can contact Lifeline. And because of my dyslexia, I cannot pronounce that name, but there are lots of different resources too. Also, if you are in the UK, then you can definitely contact 112, which is the mental health national emergency number, or 999, the Samaritans. And if you want to contact the Samaritans, then you can dial 116 123 for 24/7 mental health support, or you can contact the Campaign Against Living Miserably, also known as the Karma Charity. And there's also Shout, which is another good charity. And finally, if you're in the United States, then 911 is probably your best bet. Then also, there's the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, which is the 988, and that lifeline is accessible by phone or text, and there's 24/7 support in English or Spanish. And there's a whole bunch of other ones too. So even though I know this was sort of a weirder podcast episode, I'm more just saying, hey, this resource is available for you. Please use it. If you are suicidal, if you are concerned about a friend or loved one that was suicidal or is suicidal, or their mental health is deteriorating and you're worried about them, you could literally just say, hey, you might not be suicidal right now, but it would make me feel a lot better. Or I don't know, to be honest, how to have this conversation, but you could basically just try and say, can you please put these numbers in your phone, or can you please make them accessible? Just so if you're going through something really bad and your mental health is deteriorating, can you please contact these numbers? That's sort of what you can do. Yeah. So I don't know how to say this, but please, these resources are there. Please feel free to use them. After my suicide attempts in 2024, I'm really passionate about just sharing this information, even if it's in this sort of weird podcast episode format. But it's there. Please use it. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you got something out of it. As I said, I'm passionate about sharing this information, and I really do just want this episode out there. Since I sort of created it yesterday, I'm quite antsy about getting it out there, so I know how important this is, and and it's sort of like, oh, if I wait too long to put this episode out, I've sort of just got this fear in my head that, oh, I could have helped someone if only if I had to put it out there sooner. So those sort of feelings. And if you know anyone who would enjoy today's episode, like I said earlier, please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the podcast. And if you want to learn more, please check out Suicide Psychology, available in all the usual places, in ebook, paperback, hardback, and audiobook format. And if you want to become a patron of the show and get access to tons of great rewards, then now you can at patreon.com/the Psychology World podcast. Or if you want to support the podcast on a one-off basis, then now you can at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Wiley. So, have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Found it helpful. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow the podcast on your favourite podcast app. And if you wanted to learn more, then please check out the backlist of the podcast episodes or my books at conwiley.net. So have a great day and I'll see you next time.